I'm Janicza Bravo. I'm the director of The Listeners. The Listeners is a show that follows Claire, who's played by Rebecca Hall. She's a woman that hears a sound that seemingly no one else can hear. She's a school teacher, and one of her students also hears the sound. And the show follows their journey as they get close when they shouldn't. And it's about how their lives unravel after this little seed kind of infects their lives. My first interaction with Jordan was, well, I saw him on the street and his legs were out, and I really liked his legs, and I was really impressed because it was so cold and I couldn't believe his legs were out. That was our first interaction, and then our real proper introduction was me meeting his work. I had been sent the pilot for The Listeners, as well as a series overview and an outline for the second episode. My manager, Kevin Rowe, had sort of forced it in front of me, and I'm really grateful. And I read it. I immediately fell in love with it. And I think what turned me on most about it was that it felt a bit different. It felt sort of left of where I was going. And it also worried me a little. And so after I read it, I then seeked out the novel. I read the novel, and then we met soon after, and I was his first choice. I don't know that I was everyone's first choice, but I was his.
I think it's very hard to put yourself first often, especially if you're a mother and a wife and all these things that she is, and she's also a teacher. And so she's sort of doing a lot of caretaking, I suppose. But that's not, I think the thing that appealed to me, actually, this sounds completely sort of counterintuitive, was her sort of normalcy in a weird way. Like, it appealed to me that she felt like a kind of a person that any of us could relate to, who has a normal job and a normal family and everything, normal, whatever. But like, it looks like a lot of people that we know, and there's nothing out of the ordinary about the situation. And yet, and a tiny thing happens that means that even the most like 2.4 iteration of being a human is actually crazy and adjacent to chaos at all times. And like, that was fascinating to me, and I think held so many like metaphors for how we live and how reality is constructed, without wanting to sound completely kooky doodle philosophical, but it is, right? It's like, we all think reality is absolute, and this is a show about like how we come to believe that, and like what belief is, therefore.
For me, I was really intrigued by the nature of belief, why people believe what they believe, and who we choose to believe or not. And that's about faith. That's about the conditions of our body. Symptoms, particularly those of women and female experiences, are often so dismissed through history and to this day. So I was interested in how belief is also created within a group. I think there are elements, or I guess questions around the nature of conspiracy culture, even mania, and sort of I think those things are really appealed to me, I think, in the writing of the piece. But ultimately, Claire and her journey is what really guides us through. And so I think, as Rebecca's talking about what attracts her to the role, I think, yes, this is, ultimately Claire's story. And that's what I had the most pleasure in writing, was really just getting into her psychology and walking with her step by step as she descends into this other world.
I imagine that for each of us, what it was or how it sounded was different. The thing that I found myself sort of drawn to was that I didn't want to be able to name the sound. There are sounds rattling around us all day, all the time. And I knew that whatever it was, wherever we landed, one, I think it's a multitude. I don't believe it to be one thing. But I also knew that regardless of where we landed, it wasn't going to be something I could name. And I think I imagined it was something that lived at like the deepest core of the earth, which I think I got that from Jordan's writing, or at least that's what led me there. And, before Rebecca was like in our marriage, I do feel we are in marriage and in family. And before that, I'd had this idea that our experience of the sound would be something that would be subdued because I wanted to mirror what her world was doing, which is invalidating her experience. But her performance, I think one of the big lessons of this job is very much about being present and in the moment and allowing what's right in front of you to sort of like actually influence the idea. You can do all the homework and show up very prepared, but if there is some like magic or spark right in front of you, to actually follow that, like follow the thing that sort of makes you nervous or a little bit scared. And so I had thought it would be great to not hear the sound, even though she hears it. I mean to invalidate her, but her performance, to me, I wanted to get under her skin so badly. I wanted to be really close to her. I wanted to be on top of her. I recognize that if you pull that sentence, that sounds terrible. I wanted to be on top of Rebecca Hall. I mean,
Just again, you double down on it. We
I
just
just-
achieved virality. I think this is good. Thank
I just wanted
goodness.
to be
We
very.
needed to do something.
I wanted to be like close and deep, and I'm not helping myself. And I just think that the performance that she delivers is so raw and so vulnerable that it sort of like undid the thing that we had intellectually all sort of landed at, and then we went with her. We allowed her to guide us.